with your breathing muscles, starting from the most important one, the diaphragm. The diaphragm, which basically helps the lungs from underneath to expand downwards and contract or compress upwards. So it pulls and pushes basically. It does a little bit of sideways and back and front, but those sideways and front and back mechanical actions are more noticeable by the intercostal muscles. These are the ones in between your ribs, But when we talk about the diaphragm, think of an accordion, that wind instrument, right? That stretches and compresses. And so this is pretty much what your lungs are doing, but not only up and down, but again, side and side and back and front. So in a 3D way, the most noticeable movement is the one up and down, but we're also trying to encourage and remind people that also the lateral breathing is super important. So after all, we're going to go by 3 phases and isolate each of those phases or areas and work on them. Excuse me, guys, I'm just gonna grab one more mat. Gustavo, welcome, my friend. Oh, bro, Paul, sorry. I just thought for a second that it was Gustavo. How's Gustavo and his kid? Oh, man. I am sorry. Hope they...
His kid's getting better.
Cool. Yeah, bro. So this is just like little bug wings, but it's nothing crazy. I'm just gonna grab a bolster for Paul. Yeah, overnight it's okay. There's no nothing crazy. It's just a little dry wings. Okay, yeah, so the idea, again, is to visualize, internalize, understand the action of the muscles of breathing, and taking off from the concept or idea that your lungs are not muscles. So if it wasn't because of the muscles surrounding them and all the tissues, fascia, nerves, fluids, they wouldn't be able to exercise their expansion and contraction. So we wouldn't be able to breathe if it wasn't because of our breathing muscles. And if the breathing muscles are lazy, which happens often in modern society because of a predominant pattern of accessory muscle activation. These are your chest, shoulders, and neck muscles. This is the shallow breath that a lot of people takes 20 to 25,000 times a day. That's how many times we can breathe, depending on who and when and under which circumstances. If we're taking all those breaths with only this upper area, and you can sometimes feel it. I catch myself. Honestly, I catch myself. Sometimes, well, less than before, right? Because now I'm more into the whole awareness of it. But when I catch myself here, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but if you just bring it down a bit, it's a little more subtle, but you can tell. On top of that, down through the mouth and short, not even expanding that upper area, it's a recipe for a nervous breakdown, or at least consistent anxiety that you wonder where is it coming from, and it's right there in your breath. Because shortness of breath, driving the air through the mouth, and on top of that using this upper accessory muscles of breathing, it's tapping straight into your fight or flight response. It is activating your sympathetic branch of the autonomic nervous system. So it's telling the brain basically, hey, there's something that's about to go down. We have a threat somewhere around here. We don't know exactly what it is, but that's what the brain is getting as input from our functions, the way we're functioning. So when we flip that and we start in the bottom, the opposite happens. When you start breathing with your belly, belly breathing is just a cue. as much as abdominal breathing. It's just a cue for diaphragmatic. Why? Because as the diaphragm pushes the lungs down and then that bottom third of the lungs expands, the belly has to move forward because the organs needs to give room for the diaphragm and the bottom of the lungs to descend, right? So in order to create room, the organs move forward. It is mechanical. It is mechanical. So belly breathing, abdominal breathing, or diaphragmatic breathing does the opposite. It gives you that signal to the brain, and that's thanks to the vagus nerve, which connects the brain to the diaphragm, that we are safe. It sends that signal, that input. And what happens is that the body relaxes. The heart rate slows down. So the heart slows down its beating. The muscles relax. There's better blood flow everywhere, including the gastrointestinal system, which in sympathetic and the fight or flight reflex gets cut off blood supply because the blood is going to muscles, periphery muscles, just to get ready to get engaged in a fight or flight, run away from the threat. Ultimately, where we wouldn't like to get is the freeze, right? That's when panic takes over and you just freeze there. It's almost like that reflex that wants to fully control you when you enter those 50 Fahrenheit waters, as yesterday, which you guys navigated very well with the breath. That's why we took the time previous to that immersion to really become aware of all the ins and outs, all the nuance of down regulation. So today is a continuity, if you will. It is just that was a segue for what's to come, and there's more. On the pool training, we're going to even explore more our capabilities, our frontiers, if you will. We're going to expand those, mental and physical. Okay. So, friends, today again we're going to isolate each of the three areas. We're going to start with the first one, which is abdominal or diaphragmatic breathing. We're going to follow up with intercostal breathing. And then finally, we're going to do the accessory muscles, but we're going to do them with consciousness, with awareness, with a lot of emphasis, okay? So it always falls in the conscious breathing. With conscious breathing, it's pranayama. If you want to use that yogi or yogic ancient Sanskrit name, working with the vital energy, it is conscious breath. Any type of breathing that you're doing, that you're aware of, that you're thinking of, that you're doing it with all of your attention, becomes pranayama. That was taught to me by a very high level yogi, because sometimes people like to intellectualize things too much. But anyhow, my background is from freediving. I did a couple of levels of freediving certification, which is, it took me to 100 feet on a single breath down, straight down this line yard out in the ocean. And that's, honestly, thank you, but I look up to people who has done double, and I go, wow. So there's always in life that, right, the next level thing. But it gave me enough physiology knowledge and safety to be able to, pass some of this information, and along, of course, with surfing and yoga and some other more surfing-oriented training, and the books that we've read. Maybe some of you have heard of Breath by James Nestor. Very popular within the wellness world, especially in the U.S., since the journalist is from the U.S., James Nestor. So, you start grabbing more pieces of information, and then you have a compendium, if you will, where you can just, bring it to the people. So, let's also do a couple of breath holds, because breath holding is a good practice for just figuring out where are you within the realm of resilience, both mentally and physically. How much are you able to sit or lay comfortable, relaxed, within your own skin, if you will? Gently push away any thoughts that don't belong to the moment, that doesn't belong to the sacred moment, where you're taking time to connect with your breath, with the most vital function and element for survival. It is definitely the breath and air, because we can't live without it for more than 3 minutes, roughly speaking. As much as we can live without water for 3 days, without food for 3 weeks, without light for 3 months maybe or more, without people maybe even 3 years, never know. Without air, you cannot live without 3 minutes, without air for 3 minutes, roughly speaking. So it gains more importance when you think of it that way, right? Of course, all of the other ones are vital for survival, right? We cannot live without socializing, but again, we can extend that time if we had to. But with breath, there's no negotiation. So that's why we pay a lot of attention to it. All right, so those 2 breath holds, there's gonna be one as soon as I finish the intro, which I know is getting a bit extended, but a few more seconds, we're gonna be on it. And then the second one is gonna be at the end. And you're gonna notice how you're gonna go from here to here. In your capacities, in your mental and physical adaptations, you're going to notice a change for sure. And that's gonna be reflected on a longer time, longer breath hold time, okay? And again, we're adapting there to CO2 levels. And mentally speaking, we have new tools and little tricks that we can use, which helps greatly for also moments where you have to focus. So you can hold on to those tools. And I'm gonna explain those later. For now, with whatever intuition or information you have, we're all going to lay comfortably on our backs and place maybe our heads on the bolster. Just so you know, on the second one, I'm gonna remove the bolsters and you guys are gonna be completely neutral. On this one, we can use the bolsters. And here's how it's gonna be, guys. I'm going to count down from 10, okay? I'm going to count down from 10. When I get to 1, when I say 1, everybody at the same time, at unison, takes that last breath in, so brings in as much air as possible, packs those lungs as much as possible, and holds for as long as possible, okay? So we're trying not to let any air out once we've inhaled fully. Unless you really feel an uncomfortable pressure that's not allowing you to focus, then you can release a bit only. Know that this bit of air that you're exhaling has vital oxygen that you need to sustain or nurture your cells through that breath hold. So you choose. I usually give it a little time, a few seconds, until I feel like, okay, my body is adapting. I'm not gonna let any air out. All right? I'm gonna count down, and when you guys are ready to inhale, to exhale again, when you guys have to breathe again, please raise your hand so I know that you're breathing, and so I can point out your time, and you guys can write it down on a mental note, sticky note, okay? And just keep it there for the record so we can compare on the second one. Everybody clear? Anybody has a question? Okay, I'm gonna start a countdown. When I get to 1, everybody at the same time, not before, not after, takes that last deep breath in. Here we go, friends. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, ready? 1. Off we go. Good job, everybody. We are close to 30 seconds. Very nice. Passed the 30 seconds a little while ago. And that is 38 seconds. Good job. 38 seconds. And that's 42. Good job. I have a few people still holding. We're getting close to 1 minute. We're 10 seconds away from 1 minute. Remember those times, guys, so we can compare later to our first times. 1 minute, 1 minute sharp. Good job, thanks. 105, 107, 109, 110, 111, 115, 118. Still have a couple people holding. Still have 2 people holding. We are at 130 currently. And that's 132, Paul. We still have Brian on the corner there. We are currently, that was 140. 140, that's close to 2 minutes, okay. Everybody's breathing by now. Good job, everyone. Now, do me a favor, everyone at Unison. Fist bump, yeah. So 5 breaths together with wide open mouth. And the inhale is going to be like somebody goes, boo, and you go, okay, so yeah, inhale strong. And then deflate or exhale as it is a big valve that you're just taking off of a big pneumatic that's just letting all the air out. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And on top of that, a couple of sighs together. Good job, guys. A little bit lightheaded, maybe? A little bit lightheaded? That's fine. For those who push the limits a little longer, like this too, Paul and Brian, you need it more than everybody. Like those who really got to that point where, you know, like there's even diaphragmatic contractions happening on their own. That means the levels of CO2 are higher in the blood because we're not letting it out as we're not exhaling, right? We're holding. So that CO2, when it goes way above baseline, you want to get it out. You want to purge it or cleanse it, okay? And you do that by in a controlled way, hyperventilating, just like you did. And for everybody else, it just works as an example. Those who got a little lightheaded, that when we have normal levels of CO2, if you hyperventilate, you actually drop and below baseline, and then you get lightheaded. Okay, so we can talk about that a little later. Friends, we're going to start with diaphragmatic breathing. And for that, we are placing our dominant hand in our belly button or below. Belly button or below. Now, we're going to use the mouth for a specific reason of training. Because mouth and trachea has, check this out, listen to it and look at it for a second. More power, more suctioning power, more traction, okay? When you really want to make those muscles work. In this case, the diaphragm. How do we do that? Well, we shape our lips like a tiny O. That makes the air pressurized, and so that forces the muscles to really engage, to pull that air in, to create negative pressure inside our lungs, okay? We become a vacuum, and that's the sensation you get when you force the air in through restricted airways, just like the O-shaped lips, okay? So try it, and as you bring the air in on that strong inhale, protrude that lower belly, just push it up voluntarily, and that even helps more the air to descend, okay? Now hold it there for 3 seconds and press out and down a little bit. And now exhale with S sound. Exhale with S sound. And try to keep going 3-4 times longer than the inhale. And back to your next inhale in that same pattern. At your own pace, in your own rhythm. Hold for 3 seconds, remember that air down here, and press out for 3 seconds, and then exhale with S sound. The exhale, you're trying to, at the end of the exhale, squeeze the belly in, just so the rectus abdominis, the abdominal walls, the abdominal muscles, and the oblique muscles, which are expiratory muscles, these muscles will help to squeeze the belly just so you can get the rest of the air out. They'll also get a nice activation, okay? And by doing that, we're pressing and stimulating onto the diaphragm. And then the diaphragm sends the signal to the brain saying, hey, guys, we are, or, you know, talking to myself, Marcel, we are safe, we're good. And so the body starts acknowledging that and lowers the heart rate, relaxes the muscles. Although we are tensioning a little bit on that exercise, the rest of the body understands and starts relaxing. But definitely there's a little bit of a sensation of tensing a little bit, you know, engaging that musculature in order to achieve the rest of the down regulation. Does that make sense? Let's keep going. 1 minute more. 1 more minute of this diaphragmatic breathing. So make sure that the belly is the only thing moving, up on the inhale, down on the exhale, as high and as low as possible. And remember, the inhale may take 2 seconds or 3 seconds. The exhale may take 4, 6, 8, even 10 seconds until you squeeze all the air out. And the more you can press on that dominant hand, the more of a training or activation or workout your diaphragm muscle is getting, okay? Because it needs to really push that hand away. And by doing that, it is becoming stronger. It is strengthening. For that purpose, guys, there is even tools to train your breathing muscles, such as the breathing belt, which you can just put around your abdominal area or even your intercostal area. And then that's going to oppose to that mechanical action, creating resistance. And then as that resistance is there, and you have to engage those muscles become stronger because they have to break that pressure away. Good job, guys. 3 more breaths, and then we'll proceed to sit down and pick a buddy. We're all pairs, so we should all have a partner. 6 people will have someone to work with for the next part of the exercise. Good job, everybody. Last breath. Maybe you finish with a nice sigh and then proceed to sit down. Excellent. We're good. Let's come up for sitting position if possible. And we are, maybe Paul can serve as my modal. So I'm going to grab Paul really quick and show you guys what the idea for this exercise is. Okay, friends, before we keep going, the diaphragm muscle, you just got a nice diaphragmatic activation. That diaphragm, which becomes like an open parachute or the cap of a jellyfish, the jellyfish shape, or a dome, if you will. It becomes like that when you're exhaling. Just so, the diaphragm basically does this. Okay? And it pushes the lungs up. As you inhale, it flattens, so it pulls, okay? Inhale, exhale. You can visualize it like this. Inhale, exhale. Okay, this is your diaphragm right here. And the diaphragm goes around basically the whole abdominal region and some of the lateral areas and the back as well. So it just basically grabs the bottom of the lungs and just helps them to expand. Guys, you know that the bottom of the lungs are wider, right? We've all seen that depiction, right? What that tells us is that there's more alveolar content. There's more air sacs with capillaries that are basically the ones who will absorb or diffuse the oxygen into the body. So all of that content, that density of alveoli is 40% of the whole spectrum are in the bottom. So what happens when that diaphragm doesn't get engaged and our bottom of the lungs are not being used, we're missing out on all of those, all of that part of the treatment plant that we have in our lungs. Because our lungs are a treatment plant, basically, for oxygen absorption and CO2 exhale, right? And so we're missing out on that 40%. And we're using, the rest of the lungs, but we're missing out on that big portion. That's why starting with the belly always is one of the premises or the takeaways for this workshop. Okay, so with Paul, I'm just going to do what you guys are going to do, and I'll explain. You can always sit with legs crossed, or you can kneel. Okay, you can kneel either or, and put your hands where the ribs are. You can just feel the bones, kind of palpate a little bit until you feel where the most bones are being felt or palpated. Okay, I'm gonna have this other position sitting, and once I have my hands here, Paul is going to proceed to inhale strong from the mouth, again, forcefully. But this time he's gonna let his belly alone. He's not gonna move the belly anymore. The belly stays neutral, okay? It doesn't protrude as we were doing it with the diaphragmatic. And also the shoulders are trying to stay low from shrugging, okay? You try to keep those shoulders from shrugging. You can actually tuck that chin in a bit and kind of curve yourself forward a tiny bit, like hunch over a little bit. And now all of that breath is going to come here, okay? Mechanically, we're forcing the breath to go to the center. And so that's your lateral breathing muscles. This will help the lungs to expand sideways more. I'm going to press firmly, and then Paul is going to do a nice, strong inhale. Let's go. 3, 2, 1. Can you see my hands? Can you see my hands, how they're moving? Exhale faster. You see my hands going back in? Okay, stronger breath now. Shoulders down, press onto my hands. There you go. Exhale faster. Okay. Some of you were able to notice how my hands gently moved out and then in, right? So guys, the muscles in between your ribs have that function. They engage the ribs and they help them to expand. The ribs are flexible because they have cartilage in them. And it is, again, part of our design that we should always try and expand the rib cage in order to bring more air in to our lungs. So when those muscles get trained, they can just help us to get more air. And how do we get those muscles trained? Since we don't have the eccentric and concentric faces, we don't have a joint there where we can just like train them like a bicep curl or you know, like squats or any of the, you know, concentric and eccentric face exercises. We have to apply pressure on them and use them, engage them, you know, put them to use as we were designed to, with pressure on them. So let's go ahead and pick a partner. There you go. And friends, you can always, especially with like either younger, if younger people is pressing, or maybe women sometimes, you know, like with their man, sometimes you can also opt to like bear hug. You can bear hug your dad once you guys have to switch. And you can bear hug your boy. And you can bear hug your dad as well. See, like age differences and like people that are stronger. Okay, so just so we all get a nice pressing, okay? Just, there you go. Yeah, put your hands where you feel the bones, most of the bones. There you go. And tingles are normal. Just try to be firm. Be firm. Don't press yet. Everyone hands in place. And when I count down to 1, then everybody starts pressing. And you guys emphasize those breaths. Tuck your chin in a little bit, arch up a tiny bit, and leave that belly neutral. Everything goes here, okay? 3, 2, 1, press. Shoulders down at the end of the inhale. Press out into those hands. Make yourself feel and look robust. And then exhale. Exhale faster. Exhale faster. Press firmly. Inhale strong. Press firmly. Hold the breath. Shoulders down. Press onto those hands and exhale fully. There we go. Okay, emphasis. Shoulders down. Pack that air. Push it out and exhale. One more. Shoulders down. Press onto those hands, like if you want to break those hands away, and exhale. One more, last one. 3, 2, 1. Shoulders down, pack the air in, push it out, and let go. Good. Okay, for those pressing, were you able to feel that? Were you able to feel some of that muscle engagement? And even some lats, right? The lats also, you can feel them? Okay, so that's good. So friends, again, if it wasn't because of those muscles, our lungs wouldn't be able to move. And we're training those muscles. And one of the key indicators for health and longevity is lung capacity. Lung capacity. We're working on it as we speak. Let's switch now. Lung capacity is one of the key longevity health indicators, and we have to train it. So there we go.
How far up? Is there somewhere?
That's a good question. There's different areas. You can just bring your hands back a tiny bit here, and maybe right below the armpits, like right where the middle of the bicep is. If you go down too much, you're going to be missing some of the upper ribs. You want to just make sure you feel like all of the ribs are within the grasp or the grip that you're applying or the pressing. Yeah, I think you guys are good there. Just try to have more like bare hands, like open. Yeah, and there you go. Okay, firmly pressing. 3, 2, 1. Inhale. Shoulders down at the end of the inhale and press out as if you're trying to break some chains away. Yeah, and exhale. Good. Nice. Keep going. Shoulders down always and press out onto those hands and exhale. Good job, guys. Yeah? Press. Yeah. On that 3-second hold, you're pretending you want to spit the air through the ribs, okay? That's what you're pretending to do, is spit the air through the ribs. And you're not being able to, so that it creates more expansion. Good. That's it. Maybe one more if you guys like. Strong. Shoulders down, pack the air, press out, and let go. Okay. Were you able to feel a little bit of that? Yeah? Okay, great, guys. Great. Excellent. So again, I know, say in social media, you see a lot of exercise content, right? Workout content, wellness content. Not oftentimes you see something like this, right? You'll probably see like 90% of it is all like gym stuff, mobility, like more like flashy, like very, it's captivating, right? Like, oh, you see something like this on a video and you go, like, what's with it? But this is how subtle and how counterintuitive it is. Again, if it wasn't because of those muscles that we're training, and there's levels to train them. Again, you can just wrap yourself around with exercise resistance bands and just really apply some pressure onto those muscles and just breathe in. As you're doing that, guys, you're just working out, strengthening those muscles. And as those muscles become stronger, you're able to bring in more air. More air inside, well, more sustenance for life, more oxygen usage, more mobility in the internal areas and structures, even your pelvic floor, your ribs, everything. Some of the respiratory illnesses are due to a lack of motion, because motion is lotion. Use it or lose it. If it gets stagnant, even the energy, the ki, just, gets stagnant, and then there's blockages. So whether you want to look at it from a quantum perspective or physiological perspective, this is always a good idea to do a little bit of this weekly, hopefully daily, even 5 minutes of it. If you like to incorporate that into a routine, if you do have one, we can sum it all up at the end of the workshop with a 7-minute exercise. All right, let's keep going up now. Now you guys can just sit in your mats, and we're gonna keep going up, okay? So recap, diaphragm, most important muscle, and moves the biggest area of the lungs downwards so it can expand. It also connects to the brain via the vagus nerve, that diaphragm muscle, right? Vagus nerve, number 11, or cranial pair, or nerve number 11, number 10, sorry. Connects with the diaphragm, connects with the brain. And then as you engage that diaphragm with belly breathing, it pulls off of that string, sort of saying, and it tells the brain, hey, release the feel-good hormones and neurotransmitters. We are safe. And so you can shift yourself from a nervous moment or anxious moment to a moment of peace and tranquility and safety by modulating your physiology by doing these little things. Again, breathing with the belly, long exhales. Long exhales gets registered here as a safe thing. Long exhales, okay? Why? Because when you exhale, the heart rate slows down. When you inhale, the heart rate speeds up a little bit. You can see that on a tracking device. Also breath holds, short breath holds, 10, 20-second breath holds, 30 seconds, depending on who and when, bless you, will also bring your heart rate down because of the mechanism of self-preservation we all have. When we hold our breath voluntarily, the brain goes, whoa, we don't know for how long this is happening, so let's just protect ourselves. Let's lower the demand of oxygen by lowering or slowing down the heart beating, right? And as that happens, you feel more relaxed, right? If not, think of the opposite. When your heart is beating super fast, how do you feel? You feel winded, you feel, right? Like everything just speeds up and my heart is beating fast. So if the opposite happens, is a good idea. So again, breath holding for short periods of time, long exhales, and diaphragmatic breathing. 3 ways to lower your heart rate, which lowers cortisol, adrenaline, etc. All right, so the accessory muscles are basically some of the pectoral areas, pectoral minor, I believe, trapezius, which, trapezius can go from here all the way to the upper back, and the neck muscles such as the sternocleidomastoid and the scalens, right around here, and some other in the back of the neck. I can't recall the names right now, but these are the ones which you will recruit to like shrug your shoulders up, tilt your head back, or do a head extension, right? These are these muscles right here. And so we are just exaggerating this function, and it's going to look and sound like this. I always like to start with empty lungs. Exhale fully. Start here, and I move to here. Then I drop the subclavial before exhaling. Roll my shoulders back, puff up my chest, press, and then I exhale. So make sure you do that in between step where after you inhale, after you've gathered all that air, and you push the top of the lungs upwards and you feel them all, expanded them upwards, then you drop this structure right here, drop it so that you increase the pressure in your lungs. Then you roll the shoulders down, you puff up your chest. You can even play King Kong for a couple of seconds. Gently tap your shoulder or your sternum. Your chest or your sternum, and then you exhale, okay? So 3-part up here. Inhale, drop, roll your shoulders back, puff up your chest, feel that nice pressure around here, and you can even tap, like the sternum area, which, by the way, somebody told me once, like, hey, you're doing tapping in the thymus, so that's a good thing in the thymus gland, and stimulates the thymus to release T helper cells. I'm like, okay, I'll look that up. Okay, keep going, and we're gonna do 5 of those. Make sure you vacuum the air in, and make sure that you visualize and feel that sensation of the upper areas of the lungs are stretching upwards. So they're expanding. There we go. Drop, shoulders back. You can even sway those shoulders. Excellent. Couple more breaths. Sorry. Excellent, friends. Good job, everybody. Thank you. Now, we're probably done. We have already isolated and worked separately with each of the 3 areas. This is called the 3-part breath, or 3-stage breath, which connects into one breath, which is the full or deep breath. When you combine the 3 of them in one fluid motion, you do the deepest breath of your life, okay? And this is what freedivers do before they take that last breath in, to dive deep or hold their breath, okay? And maybe not necessarily we're training for freediving, but it gives us a nice review and feeling sensation of all the areas, just so when we need to recruit either 1, 2, or the 3 of them, we know exactly how to, because we've already carved or recarved those connections. We in some aspects dust them off, or took some rust off those connections, because again, studies show that 80% of the population of modern societies, they have lost the connection with the diaphragm. And I include myself, honestly. I hop on and off that boat. That's why I really like to do this, because it is a constant reminder until one day I'll be just like a baby again, breathing without even thinking, with my belly first. All right, so again, we're just claiming, reconnecting that connection with the diaphragm, which is the wellness muscle for the body, if you will. Okay, because it gives you wellness when you activate it. All right, so when you connect the 3 stages, guys, this is how it's going to look, okay? You're all going to do this 5 times with, before you guys late, just look at me really quick. 5 times you're going to do this with the mouth. So it's going to be a mouth, same pattern you've been using, okay? And then after those 5 cycles, now you're going to shut your mouth completely and use the nostrils and run the air through the nostrils. Now, if anybody has deviated septum or any obstruction in either of the 2 or both nasal passages, let me know, all right? And we will look for, maybe we can do a quick exercise, just block one nostril with your thumb and try to run the air through it. You know, it could be fully active, like fully open, or it can have a little bit of an obstruction. But if fairly you can just run the air through without that feeling of forcing, then we're good. Everybody okay with that first one? Okay, awesome. Let's switch to the other one. I am actually a little bit clogged on my right, a little bit, but I can still. I have to force it a little bit, but I can still run it through it. Was everybody able to run the air through both? Okay, so the left is a little bit obstructed. Okay, now let's try this because my right is also today. By the way, there could be, like fixed reasons why you have one or both. There's like turbinates that are hypertrophied. Like I have a friend who works here who's got hypertrophied turbinates, and he can't breathe through his nose. He's got to get him fixed and removed and scraped with surgery. And there's other and he's an amazing surfer. He's an athlete, but he will be even better if he just fixes that. But there's also every 6 or 8 hours or more there is a switch in the contraction or expansion of the nostrils because of the homeostasis that the body is trying to achieve. That's something else, something different. But let's push the septum from the bottom up and inhale and see if anything changes. As you push that septum up, it gets a little more open. Yeah, okay, that's great. Okay, great. You can try that, okay? And you can add a variation of like even as you push up, move it to the left and move it to the right as you're inhaling, okay? But if only pressing straight up works, awesome. I'm glad it did. Okay, so by the time we switch to nasal breathing, those who have a little obstruction can do that, okay? And there's other ways you can do it by just like pinching, blocking and pushing, to the side or up. Yes, those tapes are great. Yeah. I haven't, but I'm probably going to start carrying them with me here. But I like to do it manually so that if somebody doesn't have them at a given moment, they're not limited to like, oh, my strips, they're not here. So you can do it manually. Okay, so I'm going to show you really quick the 3 stages with the flow, connection. And now you guys do it 5 times. And then after that, again, we go all nostrils, all nasal passages, and then we're going to prepare for that second breath hold. In the meantime, I'm going to talk to you about some tools for your breath hold journey, okay? Some hacks and some mental tools. All right, so this is going to be the 3-stage breath in one connected way. So this is a deep breath. In the right order. Even 3 slightly different sounds. 3 different slightly sounds. Oh, as I exhale, I leave the belly for last. The belly is the last thing that goes down, okay? One more. Check it out. The belly now is the last thing that goes down. So you go in the opposite way as you go out, okay? And everybody clear on it? Okay, let's train, let's practice. This is, again, guys, you're also exercising control over your physiology. You're exercising control over your physiology. And if some bolsters, some bolsters can be removed from now on. You guys can start doing it, and I'm going to start removing some bolsters. I'll go one by one and just... Huh? You can start with the bolster, and at some point I'll come by and remove it, so you can kind of try both and feel with or without a bolster. The idea is that for the second and last breath hold, we are all neutral. So in a little while I'll pass by and pick it. You're just gonna have to lift your head, that's all. You don't have to move too much. Good, you can do the tap, tap, tap just to kind of feel the different densities and even sounds on each one of the 3 stages. Leave the belly for last. So keep on pushing on that belly until all air has gone out on the other areas, and then you can proceed with the belly. Nice. After you've counted 5 breaths with your mouth, now you can switch to your nostrils. Maybe I can remove this. Okay. I'll be right back. Good job, guys. Okay. I'm going to remove this. Okay, let's try to switch now to all nasal breathing, friends. All nasal breathing. So again, we are shutting the mouth, and we are running the air only through the nostrils. Shouldn't be any more S sound. Pretty soon, I'm going to start talking about some tools that we can use for the breath hold journey. Would you prefer to keep the bolster, or you want me to take it? Let's see how it feels. Okay. A little more neutral. Okay. Yep. Good.
You don't have to do sit-ups if you do this, huh?
No, exactly.
No can do.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you guys to, one by one, I'm going to pass by. I'm going to ask for you to extend your right hand's index finger, so I can put a drop of a essential oil. You rub your hands, rub your fingers, and rub the back of your ears, and maybe do a little bit of your throat and nostrils, okay? Start with the back of your ears, rub the back of your ears, and finish with a little bit of the throat and nostrils, okay? And let's keep, this is a mix with a little lavender and eucalyptus. It's called Breathe. A little bit on the back of the ears. There we go. And then again, nostrils and throat. Oops. A little spill. Man is already taking a nap. No? Okay, would you give me your finger? Not this one. We're just putting it. There you go. Okay. There you go. Back of the ears. Back of the ears. Back of the ears. Throat and nostril. Yeah, a little more. So, friends, we are going to visualize that we are doing a mundane task. Let's say commuting from point A to point B. Or we are taking a little pause in a conversation. Maybe a conversation that is not a comfortable one with somebody at work, let's say. Or this is what good managers do. Have the uncomfortable conversations. Or just writing an email. Anything. It could be anything. Doing like a little landscape or washing dishes. Just try to imagine something that is a daily task and visualize yourself breathing through the nostrils and do it. As you do it, you visualize yourself in that. You teletransport yourself with the belly first, then with the ribs, maybe a little bit of the chest, but not too much chest or accessory muscles, just belly and ribs. Taking 4 to 5 seconds to inhale, 4 to 5 seconds to exhale. Let's do that visualization exercise. Imagine yourself at work or at home with your partner, with your children. You're having a conversation, or again, you're writing an email. Just pick a scenario in your mind and teletransport yourself there, and imagine yourself as you are now breathing. All through the nose. All through the nose, taking 4 to 5 seconds in, 4 to 5 seconds out. So, with awareness, with expansion, feeling those muscles engaging, expanding your rib cage, expanding your abdominal area just for more air to come in, make it last longer in both the in and the out. Okay? Start on the belly, follow with the chest, maybe a little bit of, start with the belly, follow up with the ribs, maybe a little bit of chest and shoulders. Okay? Let's do that exercise for 1 minute. Just imagine yourself doing something, keep imagining yourself, and go, this is the way I want to breathe. Any circumstance. Any circumstance but exercising or working out. We'll talk about that a little later. And you can even emit a humming sound on the exhale. Something that resembles that Darth Vader-ish kind of deep throat sound, which is in yoga called the Ujjayi breath or ocean breath, which is what you hear when you place an empty conch, a shell conch in your ear. You hear that deep ocean sound. Like if you're listening to the ocean at a bit of a distance, or you can emit that sound on the exhale. Nice, guys. Remember, on that inhale, try to really bring that air into the base of your lungs, to the bottom of your lungs. And as you keep doing that, my friends, I'm going to give you a couple of tools for your breath hold. Well, one, you're already doing it. It's visualization. For visualization, we can change it up a little bit when you're breath holding. And just visualize yourself surfing, maybe on the closing days, Thursday, Friday, when the waves are going to be more gentle, and you've already gone through all this practice, these drills, these repetitions, and all of a sudden you just catch the wave of your life. You can just imagine that. Or, let's say you like to cook. You're a chef or you're aspiring to be one, or at least you want to put a beautiful, healthy meal in front of your family and go, hey, I cooked this and it's looking beautiful, amazing. And you just imagine yourself doing that best version of yourself, whether it's the chef in you, it is the dancer in you, it is the lecturer or speaker in you, and you're doing an amazing presentation, or maybe it's the runner or the cyclist or the engineer in you that's presenting this amazing design or product or achieving this best personal mark, like in a sport. You're watching that monitor and watching, wow, this data, I cannot believe I just broke my best personal by this much. Imagine a scenario like this while you're breath holding, and you'll be reprogramming yourself, visualizing to co-create that at some point. It may happen, don't be surprised. All right, so that's one technique while you're holding your breath to let time go by and use it in a fruitful way, in a very effective way. Another thing you can do while you're holding your breath is scanning your body from head to toes and back. So from bottom up and then down, and just really becoming aware, going deep into bodily sensations and bodily awareness to let go of any muscle, any area of the body that is still active. Even the smallest of the tiniest of the muscles. Maybe it is a hand that is, being held in a certain place. By the time you're breath holding, you should be with your hands next to you with like the Shavasana yoga pose, like surrendering to the moment, right? And a couple more things. You can count numbers very slowly in your head. One Mississippi, two Mississippis, or one Costa Rica, two Costa Rica, three Costa Rica. All right, let time go by. There you have it. A few techniques for your breath hold. This is for navigating your breath holding journey in a better way with better tools. Okay, and also you can pronounce your inner mantra. I am strong, I am healthy, I am becoming stronger and healthier by the day. This week is amazing, etc. Alright guys? So with all that being said and that nice down regulation that we've gone through, let's together perform 10 sighs until I count down again, and we take that last breath in, this time with more awareness, with more strength, with more volume in through the mouth with O-shaped lips, and we hold for as much as we can to break our first time of today. So let's sigh together just to finish, to relax the whole body, and hopefully go in Shavasana pose, everyone, unless you feel better in a different posture. Let's sigh. 3, 2, 1. Oh. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, get ready, 2, and 1. Pack as much air in as possible, pull in, and off we go. Good job, everybody. Start running a body scanner if you like. Just fully relax the body from head to toes. Surrender, let go. No muscle tension. Disconnect your muscles. Soften your facial muscles. Soften your shoulders, soften your arms, your forearms, your hips, your thighs, your knees, your calves, your feet, your hands. 30 seconds in. Time is flying, guys. Amazing. That was 51 seconds. Remember to raise your hand when you're breathing. We are at 1 minute. Time is flying. Good job, everyone. 102 back there. And 105 here. Good job. So far, so good. We are 113, 114 actually. Raise your hand when you're breathing again. Good job, everyone. This is 126. Amazing. 130. Put almost a minute on your first. 128.
Oh,
amazing.
That is
This surprise.
38 the
Yes.
first time.
Wow. And that is 140. Good job, Kenneth. Almost at 2 minutes. This is 145 here. 145. Good job. 150. 150. 153. 154. Actually, 155. We still have a couple of people. We just passed the 2 minutes of a few seconds ago. Start doing the math. Everybody did put more seconds on top. Do the math, and this is 218, Carl. Breathe in and out strong. Breathe in and out strong. Remember. And this is 225. Right there, Brian. Awesome. 225. This is amazing. Breathe in and out 5 times with wide open mouth, suctioning a lot of air, and letting it out with some forcefulness. I think I may have dropped the mic here. And if you see the little magnet somewhere, here. Awesome. Thank God I didn't go to one of these. These guys will kill me. Awesome, friends. Okay, let's do the math. Do you know how many more seconds you put on top of your first one? 40 seconds. That's amazing. Any idea? I'll give you a little more time to do that math. I got you all by surprise. But you can just raise your hand and say, this many more seconds. Anybody? 30 seconds. 60 seconds. One more minute. That's beautiful. 50. Amazing. 36. See? 40. Even 20 more seconds. Even 10 seconds is gaining. Anybody else? 54 seconds. So that's considerable. That's very, very nice. Let me just put it this way. On the second breath hold, your body has adapted already to higher levels of CO2 within 1 hour. You just gave your bodies stimuli to adapt to CO2, higher levels of CO2, thanks to that first breath hold. Number 2, you just gave your muscles a nice activation, your breathing muscles. And so I bet you this second breath hold you had more air inside of you because those muscles were able to recruit more air. And to put things in perspective, if you try to hold your breath with empty lungs, you will notice that you are not going to be able to last that long, which means, maybe like half of what you will be able to when you have filled lungs, which tells us something. When we have air inside, it's like we have an oxygen tank available. What it means is also that the more air we're able to gather, the more we can extend that breath hold, right? So, and again, we achieve that through having stronger, more connected musculature. And so that was one of the reasons why you were able to hold for longer, because you warmed up those muscles, you activated them, and then they were able to gather more air in. And then, what I said earlier, more tolerance at a cellular level. The cells are like, okay, this is what we're doing again, we have to adapt. They learn how to work with more CO2 and with less oxygen too, when the oxygen is like running low, okay? So you are creating adaptations, both physiological and at a structural level, muscular, and psychological. So good for you guys. That was very nice. Let's just wrap it all up with a quick home exercise, okay? And I can just say it really quick. 1 minute sitting, diaphragmatic breathing with dominant hand on your lower belly. Remember to squeeze in all the way. Remember to really press out and press with your hand. 1 minute of that. Then on your own, intercostal on your own, like just press your ribs and breathe in. You can kind of arch yourself a little bit. That'll be 1 minute minimum. You can do 2, 3, 4. And then finally, 1 minute of accessory muscles. Up here, okay? And then 1 minute of 3-part breath. Fully in, like packed, right? Leaving the belly for the end. That'll be 1, 2, 3, 4. If you're doing 1 minute, you can do 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and just extend that. But say you have limited time and you still want to do it. It's better than nothing. 1 minute each stage, 1 minute full stage. and then lay comfortably on your sofa, yoga mat, carpet, bedroom, bed, and prepare for a breath hold. And just perform your breath hold, have your stopwatch ready, and then just push the limits. As long as you are laying comfortably on your back with no sharp objects around you, not in water, unless you have somebody with you supervising, okay? In dry land, all good if you're solo. In water, mandatory, you have somebody with you, as we're gonna do it on the pool training. And then, okay, you let go of the air, and you watch your time. Wow, 1 minute, 1.5 minutes, whatever it is. You gave your nervous system a nice stimuli right there. And then it's just going to, from then on, the whole day is gonna be different. It's gonna be different. At a conscious awareness level, body awareness level, nervous system level. I'd like to discuss briefly nasal versus mouth breathing before we finally finish the workshop. And I'd like to hear from you guys and hear what benefits or pros can we think of when we talk about nasal breathing. Anyone?
I just know when I do, when you do yoga, they always say nervous system breathing, like your nostrils is like good for your dealing with any stress.
Yeah.
Choices.
Yeah.
Nasal breath, good
for down regulating.
Yeah.
That's a good one, Paul. Generally, you don't hear this when people present their ideas. This is very interesting, and I'll explain what I understand a little bit of. You were going to say something?
Just that we're
Sorry. Filtering. Yes. Yes. Amazing. Yeah. So we had just, you're going to say something? Okay. So we had two ideas already that are very interesting. One is down regulation of the nervous system, right? Nasal breathing. And filtering, or the filtration that the air goes through. And let's just briefly break that down. Nervous system down regulation. Well, in yoga, in their cosmology, in their ancient texts, and their, all of their gurus, they know. They don't believe, they know that the left nostril is connected with the right brain hemisphere at an energetic level. Like you stimulate those brain hemispheres when you run the air through the nostrils. And the right nostril is connected to the left brain hemisphere. We know that the right hemisphere has to do more with what we're doing now, with, let's say creativity, wellness, connection, the divine, dreams, everything that's more spiritual, that's more like hearty, that more, yeah. So that's your trusting people, like empathy. That's all right brain hemisphere. And then left brain hemisphere is more like mathematics and logic, numbers, negotiation, being practical about things, right? Like it's more of like a little more analytic, OCD, or maybe ATD. You know ATD? Attentive to detail, or obsessive compulsive as well. But when you breathe through the nostril, then you get both nostrils, you get both hemispheres like merging into one. So you get a good level, a good balance. That's what I learned.
Is it okay if you feel a little lightheaded?
Yes, it's very normal when we do, yeah. And we have not pushed it to the more, outer body experience type of breath practices. That's like Wim Hof and other stuff. That can get you really lightheaded. But I try to focus more on connecting with physiology. But anyhow, yogic breathing, nasal breathing connects with the brain hemispheres. It helps to down-regulate and to become more aware. Filtering, nasal hair, first line of defense. Bigger airborne particles gets trapped there. Dust mites, pathogens that may be floating in the air, gets trapped there. Whatever makes it through that first line of defense gets trapped or binded in the humid and sticky mucosa layer that goes throughout the nasal passages. That mucosa layer has carpet-like surface that has hair that constantly scrapes mucus off of the mucosa back into the throat, where you can swallow, and then stomach acid neutralize all those pathogens that rolls down with the mucosa, with the mucus, right? So that's the whole filtration system right there. First, nasal hair, then mucosa, and cilia. It's called the cilia, the little hair, carpet-like structure, and then finally the stomach acids will neutralize. Everything is meant or being designed to protect our lungs from any foreign or alien substance or molecule or anything to wreak havoc, to penetrate and wreak havoc. So we're built that way. Then the nostrils and nasal passages thermoregulate the air. So if it's too hot, or too cold, it balances it out a little bit so that the lungs can receive it with a more stable temperature. And then finally, we talk about the production of nitric oxide through the nasal breathing. And nitric oxide is great for everything, for health, for sports, for health in general. Nitric oxide helps your veins, arteries, and capillaries to relax or dilate. So it's a vasodilator, so you get your heart less load, if you will, to pump. It's going to pump easier because all of the circulatory system is going to be more relaxed. So nitric oxide does that. And nitric oxide can be also supplemented. It could be consumed via beets, like the red beets and whatnot. But nasal breathing is one way. There's other type of nitric oxide that you metabolize with sunlight, by the way. So anyways, all of that is benefits for nasal breathing. Now, mouth breathing, on the other hand, offers 4 or 5 applications that are real that you don't get with nasal. Okay, mouth is good for when you're swimming, of course. Obviously we all have, which we have swim knows that breathing through the mouth, it is the way. Snorkeling, of course. Public speech, singing. Those are probably a few instances in which you will better off breathe through your mouth because you can just grab air quicker before the next sentence or line or note. Or to avoid, having water going through your nostrils. Then training, like we did today, you were able to get more air stronger and connect with those muscles better through a nice vacuum-like, suctioning of the air through the mouth. Okay, because there's more power. And finally, through the mouth, recovery. When you have only a few seconds to recover, let's say you are getting pounded by waves, a set of 6 or 7 waves, one after the other, and then you have to you have to leave your board, drop your board, and go underwater. You surface. You have only a few seconds for the next wave. The best way to recover, the best way to bring the oxygen levels up and the CO2 levels down is hook breath. From Vietnam War, I believe, or Second World War, bombardier pilots invented that technique because they will have to drop really low to drop the bombs and then go really high to avoid being detected or fired back. And so all those changes of altitude that were so abrupt made a lot of them just like lose it, just get hypoxic or hypercapnic, too much CO2 or too little oxygen, and crash. And so they discovered that this technique will just inject oxygen quickly into their lungs and reduce the CO2 levels so they won't get lightheaded, so they can cope. It's crazy. It comes from the
dive bombers, they go straight down too fast.
Exactly, straight down too fast,
Like this.
and then up again. So all those changes of pressure will cause that. And the way that they discovered they can cope with it and level it up was through a breath like this. So again, when your levels of oxygen are low or your levels of CO2 are high, which typically happens after a sprint or some like really fast, short duration, but very intense load of exercise, you can do this. That in between hold and press is vital. In between, you're like press out as we were pressing out on the ribs. That's why we were doing it. As you're pressing out on your belly, as you're pressing out on your chest, but fully, completely. You see, like every in between, half a second, you press out. So you increase the pulmonary pressure. It's called positive end expiratory pressure in pulmonary respiratory therapy. It is positive end expiratory pressure. Anyhow, friends, I hope the workshop was not too long and that it was of your delight and that there's some tools and some elements, some aspects of it that you can just grab and take with you and explore more, and that the spark has been, that has lit the fire of more research and maybe looking into books like Breath by James Nestor or any other resource, like anyone from Dan Brule, which is a master at breath work. US based people, they're amazing. You can always go deeper. Or maybe sign up for a free diving class at home. If you find out that there is a free dive class, I will always recommend that for everybody. It doesn't matter which walk of life, it'll always benefit your overall health. It'll give you more tools, Remember, breath is the first and the last thing. It is the alpha and the omega. We're born with an inhale, we check out with an exhale. We breathe during the day anywhere from 20 to 25,000 times a day. So that's the most that we do daily is breathing. And again, it doesn't take more than 3 minutes before you just, feel like you can't go anymore. So it is the most vital. So, paying attention to it is a good idea. Thanks for the patience and thanks for the engagement and the good performance, because I saw everybody really engaged today and I am grateful. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Gracias. If you don't mind, we're